Hello everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about salt, and salt is an important topic because it's everywhere. It's in a lot of things that we eat every day. So I'm going to talk about what it is, what it does in our bodies, why it's bad for us, and what alternatives we have. So stick to the end, you'll have some alternatives and there's some bonus content at the end as well. So stick around till the end and you can learn a lot about salt. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So salt is made up of sodium and chloride, so NaCl. So the salt that you generally buy, the processed salt or the iodized salt in the shops, is NaCl. So 40% Na, 60% Cl. So Na, chloride, sodium, or 40% sodium in salt, and 60% chloride in salt. And a lot of countries have added iodine, especially in Africa, because of kind of a lack of iodine in the general population's diet, and because of a lot of thyroid diseases and thyroid problems because of a lack of iodine. So they've started adding iodine to salt. So this has mainly taken away thyroid diseases, or is specifically goiter, or overproduction of thyroid hormone. So this has almost eliminated what we call a goiter. So in a sense, this iodine has worked, but as well it's increased salt intake, which has had negative effects in other areas. So the recommended intake for salt is about 1,500 milligrams per day, so the RDA, or the AI, adequate intake, whereas the maximum is hovering between 2,300 and 3,000 milligrams. So 2,300 milligrams if you have any chronic disease or any urinary tract problem or kidney problem, you would limit that to 2,300 milligrams. Also heart problems or swelling or edema, fluid retention, then you would severely limit your salt intake. The problem with that is that 1 teaspoon of salt will have upwards of 3,000 milligrams of sodium. So salt in isolation is not the problem. The problem is the sodium. So the sodium in the salt, so that 40% of the salt, the sodium is the problem. So salt adds flavor to food. It brings out the flavor. If you don't add salt to food, you know that it usually tastes, the taste is less and it's not as strong and it tastes a little bland. Salt supercharges the taste. It brings out the flavor. It enhances the flavor. So if you eat a vegetable without salt and you eat a vegetable with salt, your taste will be much more. The taste of, for example, broccoli is increased with adding salt. So that's also why salt is classified as an addictive substance, because it increases flavor, so it makes you want to eat more because the flavor is more. So things like glutamate, MSG, monosodium glutamate, anything that has a sodium particle in it will enhance flavor, and the more of it you add to a product, the heighten the taste and the more we all want to eat it. So if you look at the addictive substances, one of the things that is in there is salt. So if you look at pizza, the dairy, high salt content, processed foods, high salt content, even sweets and chocolates and all of those candies, you'll see lots of sugar, but you'll also see high sodium content. Sodium is also used as a preservative. So in all your preserved products, there will be a lot of sodium and a lot of salt. Cured and dried products will also have a lot of salt. Even though some of them might have sugar too, the salt content is still high. If you read the ingredient list, for example, pickles, very high sugar, very high salt. So a mixture of those two, both addictive substances, increases your risk for disease. So sodium is really the problem in your products that you are buying and consuming. So why is sodium a problem? So in the body, sodium balances the water in your cell and out of your cell. So we call it the intracellular fluid balance and the extracellular fluid. So your cell has fluid on the outside and fluid on the inside, and this fluid balance needs to be kept constant and at a homeostatic level so that the pressure remains constant, so your cell can perform all of its functions like it should. If the pressure is too high, your cell can rupture and die and not function anymore. And if it gets dehydrated, it shrinks and then it cannot perform its function. So it has to be adequately hydrated, not overly hydrated and not dehydrated, to be able to perform its function. So when there's too much sodium coming into your cell, then the fluid is going to be moving out of your cell and you will become dehydrated. So your extracellular fluid will increase, making you swell, making you edematous. So a lot of sodium can make you retain water out of your cell. So inside your cell, you are dehydrated. Outside of your cell, you are overly hydrated. So it looks like you're overly hydrated. You're puffy, you're swollen. You have extra fluid, but your cells are not functioning. Your cells are crying out for fluid, but there is none. So this is a double problem of too much fluid outside of your cell, too little fluid inside of your cell. So cellular fluid management is extremely important, and sodium throws that out of balance. So if you are consuming sodium, you need to consume a lot of water. But just know that it's going to take a lot to tip the balance. You're going to be swelling and putting water into your outside of your cell before it can go inside of your cell to expel that sodium. So a quick fix is to increase your potassium intake. So potassium helps to expel sodium. So isotonic fluids, sports drinks and electrolyte drinks will have potassium as well. But a much easier way, fruit, bananas have high potassium. The colored berries have high potassium. Things like mangoes, brightly colored fruits, has lots of potassium, and that helps to expel the sodium. So that's why your natural products, your fruits and your vegetables, will have a much higher probability of balancing your fluid, because they already have a balance of these minerals. They don't have an excess of sodium, and they also have potassium, which helps to eliminate the excess sodium. So if you want to decrease your salt intake, it will take you about a week or two to get used to the taste. As I said, sodium or salt increases the taste or magnifies, makes the taste greater and better. So your tongue, your taste buds has to adapt to just, I want to say bland food, but your normal natural form of that food. So sodium causes water retention. It increases your extracellular fluid, which is harmful to your cells. It increases your blood volume, which makes your heart have to work much more to pump the blood around your body, because it's more fluid and it's less concentrated. So your heart has to pump more of it around your body to get all the minerals and nutrients around your body and the oxygen. So it causes left ventricle atrophy. It increases pressure on your vessels, your blood vessels, stress in your heart, and it can cause vascular damage through the molecular size of the molecule, sodium molecule, and the fluid movement. It can also decrease the endothelial function in your blood cells, can cause arterial stiffness. It increases your protein excretion as well. Because of that balance in your cell, it excretes protein, so you can have muscle breakdown and protein losses. And it also increases skeletal muscle contraction and stimuli. So you go into a stress response if you have too much sodium. It can also cause calcium losses through the mineral movement in your cells. So it can pull calcium from your bones and from your teeth and leach that out of your body, which is also extremely harmful. So what are the alternatives? As I said, potassium can decrease the sodium content in your bodies, and potassium is high in fruit and veg. So the potassium helps to excrete urea, toxins, and the excess fluid. So be careful of, as I said as well, canned products, packaged, processed products, dried preserved and other additives, like I said, glutamate, MSG. Those can also have sodium. Then what can you rather use? Spices, herbs. There are hundreds of these spices and herbs that you can use. Rosemary, parsley, oregano, thyme. There are many, turmeric, cardamom. So there are a whole range of spices and herbs that you can use to flavor your food in a healthy way and increase the medicinal value of that food as well, because the herbs and spices have a lot of medicinal value to them by themselves. You can also try to use mineral salts, rock salt, sea salt, because the bigger molecule is harder to break down, so you are excreting a lot of the sodium instead of taking it up, especially if you're eating a high fiber diet. The bigger molecules can be excreted and you're not going to be taking in or absorbing all of that sodium. So for sea salt, it's a bigger molecule that's harder to break down, so a lot of it will just be flushed out of your system before you can absorb it, and it will also increase the flavor still. The same with something like a Himalayan pink salt, which has many more minerals in it, as well as iron, which gives it the pinkish color. So if you can use an alternative, a different kind of salt, a bigger molecule, you'll have more minerals being added, you'll have less of a sodium load to that salt, and it will still increase the flavor. My top tip would be to use herbs and spices in your food instead of any salt, even the Himalayan pink salt or the sea salt alternatives. I'd rather use herbs and spices. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something. I hope it was interesting. And as always, stay healthy and to God be the glory.